Hello folks, welcome to FreeCodeCamp. Today we are going to just continue learning JavaScript on FreeCodeCamp. Let's navigate to where we stopped on the previous lesson, and that was just the first lesson in this tutorial lesson or challenge number 11. So here let's just scroll down, and in this lesson basically in JavaScript you can reassign a value of a variable to another variable, or reassigning variable to a new variable. For example, here that as you see we have first variable called first and second variable called second, and at the end we can assign or reassign this second variable to the first variable value. So in this case here is asking us to reassign the second character instead equal to a test to equal just to character, and then add a semicolon, add the equal operator, and just call this character, which this variable here we have it already declared here called world. So now I'll add a semicolon at the end. As you remember, when we need to reassign a variable, we don't need to use let keyword. So this variable already declared on the top here. And now let's run. Let's just check your code. From that is successfully. So let's just submit the changes and move on to the next lesson, which is number 12. And in this lesson, basically, we'll ask us to remove this console log and this line, this second character and character. And also it will explain to you that how you can reassign variable to another variable value, as you see that displaying. And also just as we learned in the previous lesson, how to assign variable to another variable value. So by now, let's just remove this console logs and remove all of this. Just leave the first variable called character. Remove this one as well, and just check your code. Boom, congratulations, they submit your changes. I'll move on to the next challenge here, challenge number 13. In this lesson is asking us to create or declare two variables, one called proficient and another one called age, and assigning proficient to teacher value, and the age should be initialized without assigning to it any value. Let's just use let keyword to assign to initiate or declare the first variable called proficient and assign it to a teacher value. And as you remember, we have to add a semicolon at the end of this line, and let's initiate another variable, call it age, and just add the semicolon without assigning it to any value, and check your code. And at the end here we need to log, basically we need to add a console log for both of these variables using console log. If you remember, we learned on the previous tutorial how to use a console log to print out a variable value. We need to do same for age, and check your code again. That's congratulations, your code is run successfully. Let's submit the changes and move on to next lesson, number 14. And now it's asking us to remove this code but keep the character variable. Let's just remove this in this lesson and just check your code again, successfully run, submit your changes, and move on to the next lesson. And in this lesson, it asks us to declare a variable called count and assign it to 8. Let's assign a new variable, call it count, and assign it to 8. And then add a semicolon at the end. And just check your code. Congratulations, that's successful run. Let's move on to next lesson, number 16. And here's just showing you that with a number you can use a mathematical operator, like opposite to the text data type. So with the number we don't need to wrap the number with a single or double quotes, but we need to do that with a text. So in this example, it's asking us to type here just to increase the count by 1 using call count plus 1. In console log, it's asking us to print this in console log. Instead, let's just call console log and call count variable, then plus 1. Then that's supposed to display 9. That, as you see here, you can see 9. Count is 8 plus 1 equal to 9. Check your code Congratulations, submit your changes, and move on to the next lesson, which is 17. So now here you can use more mathematical operators like subtraction or also multiplication and definition and division. For example, count, we can count -1 instead of 8 will be 7, and count multiply, for example, instead of 1, let's just multiply it by 2, that should be 16, and as well you can divide count by 2, which will be 4. That is how to use mathematical operator. We are going to learn more on the coming tutorials how to use these mathematical tutorials. And after the end, we can just remove this line, this console, and check your code. Congratulations, your code is passed, submit the changes, and move on to the next lesson, which is number 18 here. In this lesson, we'll give you a quick introduction to the array in JavaScript. So if you need to manage and customize your data locally in JavaScript, you can use array. And it's like a local storage, just to store different data types inside it. So you can declare a variable and assign it to arrays. The syntax of the array basically is a square bracket. This is how to declare empty array in JavaScript. At the end is asking us to create a variable equal to empty array. The variable called rows. So using let keyword, and then rows. The variable name, assign it to empty square bracket, which is empty array. Check your code. Congratulations, and your code is passed. Just submit the changes and move on to next lesson here, number 19. And here is how you can store the text inside an array. So we can add like a first text, and the second text. And between this item or text, you will separate them using comma. And this example is asking us to update these rows with this data or with this text. And let's just copy these 3 names here and add them inside rows. Remove and here, and each one of these text will be separated by a comma. Now let's just check your code. Successfully that run, let's submit the changes and move on to next lesson here, number 20, which is going to be the last one for this tutorial. And where we need to console log out these rows, console log. And then type rows inside here, that we're going to display this text inside this print area, and just check your code. There is an error, let's see what's wrong. Also in this lesson, it will show you how to print an item from this array. This array has like 3 items. If we need to print any one of these, we can use index. In JavaScript, index starts from 0. For example, first element index of the first element 0, and then 1 and 2 and so on. It's asking us to print out the value. Print out the first value inside the rows array. In this case, we are going to call the variable name, then the square bracket, then the index of the element that we need to print out. The first element or in this array is going to be, the index of this element is 0. And now that displays the first element inside or first text inside these rows. And now if you check your code, successfully that will submit. Successfully that is run, and now we can submit the changes and move on to next lesson, which is 21, and this is going to be on next tutorial. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next tutorial.